Just before we came on air, the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, appeared as the government announced its new plans for the NHS. But she didn't look quite so cheerful yesterday. Here she was in the House of Commons behind the PM. Here's how she sounded today.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here today. Thank you, Wes, and it's great to be here today also with you, Kia.
The Prime Minister was at the announcement too. Sky's Beth Rigby asked him why he didn't do more to offer his support, and here's what he had to say.
I didn't appreciate what was happening because, as you'll probably appreciate, the PMQs is pretty wired. It goes from question to question, and I'm literally up, down, question, looking at who's asking me a question, thinking about my response and getting up and answering it. And so it wasn't just yesterday. No Prime Minister ever has had side conversations during PMQs. It does happen in other debates when there's a bit more time, but in PMQs, it is bang, bang, bang. That's what it was yesterday, and therefore I was probably the last to appreciate anything else going on in the chamber. That's just a straightforward human explanation. Common sense explanation, if you like.
What do you two make of all this? Lynn?
I think his response was very wooden. He could have done a lot more to say, do you know what, I probably should have realised that she was in that state or extended, a level of sympathy towards her. Even how she appeared just now, though, it seemed very plastic. She was really covering up, trying to put on a brave face. But as for people criticising her, I do think we should be or have a little bit more humanity. She was in tears. I've never seen an MP, especially, front row, cabinet, essentially crying her eyes out. It wasn't just one tear, her lip was trembling. But at the same time, you've got one of the most important jobs in the country and showing the world that you're falling apart. We don't know why. It could be a family issue. It could be something to do with, her colleagues. But it's not a good look. It's not a good look for Britain at the moment.
I thought it was a bit of a shock, but she had to turn up. If she had darked it because she was so upset, people said, aha. But it was a sad moment, really, for everybody watching. I thought it was rather...
Well, I suppose it's difficult to say because we don't know exactly why she was crying. Because obviously, if there was a personal issue in her life and she was crying, then who are we to judge? Obviously, I think being in the public eye and having to do something so high profile, if you're in a difficult situation, that's tough. Obviously, I only have sympathy. But there is obviously the suspicion that actually she was upset about her professional life. I can't confirm this either way, but when it comes to the difficulties she's having in her professional life, I don't have much sympathy for those because essentially what we've seen is Rachel Reeves tried to take money off disabled people and then couldn't. So it's not the most sympathetic position to find oneself in. I was trying to take money off disabled people and I didn't manage to. Woe me. Again, if there's a personal thing, as she said there is, nothing.
There was talk of having a row with the Speaker or something, but that wouldn't make it.
Yeah, with Lizzie Hoyle.
Well, I suppose the way she was crying did make it seem like she did look like if you've just received really bad news.
But what about this? What about this? We're heading towards a time where people are saying that we should have more empathy and show feelings. What about that?
Yeah. I think it damaged her, to be honest, Michael.
Yeah.
It'll always be there, won't it? Listen, we've got to move on. Let's get into our first debate. Should we raise taxes to pay for welfare spending? It's a big, big business, this. The Prime Minister refused to rule out tax rises when he was challenged in the Commons yesterday. He was planning to cut welfare spending, but had to U-turn. So our benefits bill is set to grow, not shrink. Do we need to raise taxes to pay for it? Michael, come on, you're steeped in this stuff.
Yes, we do.
We do?
I think we do for a number of reasons. So one, Britain does have quite low taxes compared to other European states. If we want a European-style welfare state, and we have the NHS, then I think it's sensible that we might need higher taxes. I think the bigger reason, though, is that we have an ageing population. We have an ageing population means a more unhealthy population because older people are more likely to have problems either going to work or requiring the NHS. And I think what the last year has shown is that there aren't actually any easy cuts to make. I think everyone stands up in politics and they want to pretend, oh, we'll cut savings, but we're not going to harm those people you like. We're not going to harm the elderly. We're not going to harm the disabled. We're only going to harm the undeserving recipients of benefits. And I think what we've sort of recognised over the past few months is that there really aren't many undeserving recipients of benefits. Most people who are claiming benefits really need them.
They've got to go through the test. Lynn?
No, I'm going to have to disagree. In 2024, we saw an exodus. Over 10,000 millionaires leave the country. And this whole idea of let's tax the wealthy, we know that all they do is hide their money or they leave. So where does it go to next? It goes to the middle class or the average working man who's trying to be ambitious, do well for himself. And it never, ever works to consistently tax people does not assist a country. We need to look at bolstering growth, we need to look at supporting businesses, and we need to look at the expenditure and the huge waste in public services, in government, and quite frankly, in the NHS. We see how much the NHS wastes. So, one of Labour's clear promises was not to tax the working man. They're discussing essentially, possibly taxing income.
Mm-hmm.
How?
Where else you can?
Okay, but if people are already squeezed, yes, you're saying that we have one of the lowest tax systems, but then we also have one of the highest energy bills, more than any other European country. So tell me where your average person is going to get more money to be taxed.
They'll have to raise the taxes from where? Income tax or what? What do you think?
Well, I mean, ideally, you go for some kind of wealth tax because you have a lot of people sitting on quite a lot of wealth. But wealth taxes are quite difficult to sort of do in practice. I mean, I think equalising capital gains tax to income tax would be an easy win. So at the moment, capital gains tax, so that's the tax you pay on your wealth, essentially, when you make investments and get that money back, or when you buy property and sell it, is only 24%. Obviously, the income tax for over 50k is 40%. So I think we should equalise the tax on wealth and on work, because at the moment you get taxed higher for getting up every morning and going to work than you do for being lucky enough to buy a bunch of houses.
Tell me when a wealth tax. Okay, France tried to do the wealth tax. They had to get rid of it in 82. Sweden did a wealth tax. It didn't work. All the countries that have tried this wealth tax, it never works. So this whole idea, even with the Green Party suggesting, let's tax only 1% of those who have over 10 million. Again, how are they going to have the administrative departments to be able to track this money? How are they going to stop people from leaving?
Well, I'll tell you something that interests me. Apparently, the research tells me that it's 15% in this country. And yet the happiest country in Europe is Denmark, where the tax is 35%. So where have we got it wrong? How come they're so happy, smiley people up there with their bacon in Denmark? At 35%.
Yeah, because...
And we're at 15, we're broken-hearted. We don't know what's going on.
Well, I don't think, from my own personal perspective, the tax I pay isn't the money I'm annoyed about. The money I'm annoyed about is the rent I pay, because the rent I pay goes to someone who was just lucky enough to buy a flat in Hackney in the right year. Whereas the tax I pay, I know that goes to the NHS. I know that goes to people who need it. So I think if we had a society where rents were lower, we need to build way more houses, and bills were lower, maybe we need to build more wind farms, but then have higher taxes, I think that would be
But
a much
then,
better
okay.
balance.
Hold on, chaps.
Okay.
David's panting to talk to us. David from Berkshire.
I'm actually in Prospect Park Hospital. Actually.
Well, hold on a second, David, because I'm struggling a little bit to hear you. Whereabouts in Berkshire? I like Berkshire. Where are you?
I'm in Prospect Park Hospital. I'm in sections.
Right. And what's your question, David? Speak slowly, because we're struggling a little bit in the studio. Yes, David?
Basically, why are you taxing the lower income people? Tax the rich. Tax the rich.
Michael's nodding furiously.
Yeah. How would you do it, David? A wealth tax?
Sorry,
you
the
think we
alarm's
should
going
just...
off now. The alarm's going off now. I'm in Prospect.
Oh, his alarm's gone off.
Okay. Already. Well, David, thank you so much. Thank you very much indeed. Now,
the point he made was right, though. Correct.
No.
He was interrupted by his alarm, but he was making a very important point.
It didn't really sound like he was sure, to be honest. But like I said, if you tax the wealthy, they disappear, and then the common man will have to pick up the bill. Because, like I said, and I've said repeatedly, taxing the wealthy has never worked for any country that's implemented.
Well, you're
it.
talking about the
brought up
wealth
Denmark.
tax, but you can jack up the income tax rate, presumably.
At what point, though? At what point would you?
Well, so say
How
a
much
country
would
like,
you earn before you increase
So a country
the income
like
tax?
France or Denmark, I mean, where exactly you put your taxes, I think is almost a technocratic question. Ideally, you want to put it more on wealth than on work, and that doesn't have to be a wealth tax. It can be a capital gains tax, which every country in the world has. So it's not exactly a stab in the dark. Sorry.
Let's have a chat with John from North Yorkshire. Yes, John.
Hello there, and hello panel. Thanks for getting me on. I've been passionate about this question for many years. Income tax should definitely go up. When I left college, when I left uni in the 1980s, historically, income tax was 33%. Over the last 40 years, every government, Tory and Labour, has reduced its successions from 33% all the way down to 20%. That's nearly half to what it used to be. And the country suffered, partly because of this. They've been doing it to try and get votes. I call it dumb votes. So, yes, income tax should be increased, but not to hurt people on low income. If you're earning $13,000 a year, you're still paying income tax. So the personal allowance should go up as well. I think Rachel Reeves might be looking at VAT, indirect taxes, before direct taxes. And I hope not, because VAT is affecting people on low income proportionally on their wages far more than income tax. Income tax is the cheapest form of taxation to collect. It's got less chance of corruption. It's certainly the fairest form of tax because it's based on your ability to pay. So please get income tax back up to 33%, but increase the personal allowance.
But for who, John? You said not those on low incomes. For who?
Sorry, say that again.
For who would you increase income tax for? How much would you earn before you say, yes, we should increase it? Because you said it hurts low earners. But then what do we consider a low earner? Those on 37 to about 4...
Progressive. Have income tax far more progressive. So the first £20,000, the personal allowance should be increased because that's been frozen now, I think, for the past 9 years. Okay. The 12,500 should certainly go up with inflation. So knock it up to 20,000 a year before you start paying tax.
Good. Thank you, John. A fair analysis. Well done.